consequences. A woman who has prostituted herself, and there are videos of her out online, the consequences of that are long-lasting and far.
Yeah.
Does that mean she's cut off from a meaningful relationship with a quality Christian man? Of course not.
No.
But that Christian man should probably have a similar background.
Yeah. Again.
Yeah, we're on the road again.
I just can't wait.
We are on the road here, and we are being chauffeured by our fellow pastor, Bert Lace. How are you, Bert? I guess, yeah, they probably can't hear you. He doesn't have a mic. We do have new mics coming. We have 4 new mics. Should be hopefully here next week, so we could do some interviews. But we're traveling back from Owensboro. We're headed back to our Shelbyville, Kentucky. And just thought we would try to hit a couple topics while we're out. And what do we want to talk about today, buddy?
Yeah, so I think today we should talk about the recent. I don't know how recent it'll be after this. By the time we release this, but the recent kerfuffle with on Twitter and Facebook with Protestia.
Yeah.
And their statement that it would be better to...
Let me read it.
Yeah, just read it. There you go. You got it.
It said, better to marry a former OnlyFans model who has come to know the depths of her sin and the mercy of the Lord than an unkissed virgin with a haughty look and a proud heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We both had reactions to that, and I mean, I understand what they're saying, why they did that. They're comparing a Christian, a true Christian versus a non-Christian. Okay, I get it. But this is what we call a Jesus juke.
It's a Jesus juke.
This is a Jesus juke.
It's a pious sounding tweet, but it really doesn't mean anything, because they could have just said it's better to marry a repentant, saved OnlyFans model than a non-believer.
Yeah, that would
have been fine. We would all agree with that. The problem is that they used someone with a haughty look and a proud heart. Well, I mean, the first problem that I had and there's lots of problems with the tweet, with the statement, but the first one I had was that a haughty look and a proud heart. A proud heart is not something that you can know objectively. You can't know for sure that someone has a proud heart. Someone can be accused of having a proud heart. And someone could be accused of having a haughty look, or someone may struggle with pride on a given day, but not as a general rule of their life. And so it's just there's a problematic, it's like you have a obvious sin that is going to cause giant ramifications for a marriage,
yeah,
versus a sin that you can speculate about, but you can't objectively know.
Yeah.
So there's a bait and switch there, which is a problem. And then obviously I think the problem that most people pointed out was the false dichotomy, as if these are the only two choices.
Yeah, it's the false options here. Yeah.
And one of my biggest problems with the whole thing, which I haven't had anybody be able to answer this yet, is what is the action item here for young men? So what is the action item? You're making this statement, so therefore young men should do what? They should pursue repentant OnlyFans models instead of someone they think might struggle with pride. And everyone's getting confused in the comments, like, about my statement. Well, he didn't say that someone that struggles with pride. He's saying someone that has a prideful heart. But how can a young man know that? How can you know that they have a prideful heart objectively? You can't. And so, anyway.
I think the challenge is if the choice is between a whore and a virgin, you got
former whore.
Yeah, a former whore.
Yeah.
So this is a person that's been with. One, it presents this false dichotomy. One, it eliminates natural consequences for sin.
Yeah.
I think, who was it? William Swollis put this out there, which is just hilarious to me. He was talking about, it's better to marry a 500-pound, burn victim who's sterile but has repented and trusted in the Lord than to marry a virgin. What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
There are when that points out is there are natural consequences. A woman who has prostituted herself and there are videos of her out online, the consequences of that are long lasting and far.
Yeah.
Does that mean she's cut off from a meaningful relationship with a quality Christian man? Of course not.
No.
But that Christian man should probably have a similar background.
Yeah, but we have this idea that Christianity solves everything. That when someone is regenerate and saved, that just fixes everything, and that doesn't. It does not negate temporal consequences for sin.
Yeah.
And the idea that a young Christian man raised in the church, virgin, is going to marry a woman who's been a whore and has, put videos of herself all over the internet, and has a high body count and has all sorts of perversions that she has engaged in and practiced and acted on for years, that they could just come together in marriage because they're believers, and there's just going to be no problem. That's insanity.
Yeah.
That's literal insanity. And so that's one of the difficulties. One of the and I showed that by multiple times. I just quote tweeted them and flipped the analogy where it was a man, and everybody's like, well, that's not analogous, because we have no problem with the idea that men are going to suffer the consequences for their sin and their life choices and behavior and all this stuff. But when it comes to women, we're all made uncomfortable that they would have to suffer the consequences of their sin in their past life.
100%. That happens.
And so there's lots of things going on in this tweet. It's not just one thing, but that's one of them, is that we don't like women to have to be accountable.
So this drew out a lot of people that think that it's a denial of the gospel to even mention natural consequences. We would advocate, again, I have sat in counseling with people that they have a sexual history. One has a sexual history and the other does not. They're still a virgin. And that's one of the first things I ask in our counseling that we do is like, have you guys had sex?
Yeah.
Have you with each other or with other people? Have you discussed those kind of things with each other? Your sexual history. That's important. You need to know that. You don't want to discover that on your wedding night, that your wife's not a virgin or vice versa. That's just something that needs to be discussed. And then you need to count the costs. What does that mean? So, people have had indiscretions. And I don't really think that we're talking about that when we give such an extreme example of a porn star who's been with hundreds of men, and it's videotaped, and you could literally Google and see your wife with other men. I mean, that's just horrific.
Yeah. Children growing up with a mother who has porn online.
You need to count the cost. Am I saying that you wouldn't marry? But first off, that woman should not be shopping amongst the virgin men of the church. What are you doing? You need to look elsewhere.
And everyone lost their minds over you saying that young men shouldn't be looking at the clearance rack. And
I was wrong. I confess. I should have said the Goodwill rack, because a clearance rack is clothing that is unbought. It's unused.
It's used.
The store's trying to get rid of it. But a Goodwill is more
used clothing.
I think.
Yeah.
I'm noticing Bert's smile on this particular issue here. So he's just a chauffeur. He offers no opinion except with his facial expressions in this particular discussion.
But we have this idea that our past lives should not affect our future lives once we get saved, and that's just ridiculous. I mean, so for me as a father, I've got 4 daughters, and if a young man was a Satanist or in the Satanic Temple or whatever it was, some kind of demonic religion, and he castrated himself and did all kinds of mutilated stuff to his body, and then wants to marry my daughter because now he's repentant and he's a believer and he understands the depths of the mercy of Christ and all these things, I rejoice with him, but I'm not open to him marrying my daughters. That's just not an option.
Because he cannot give to her a heritage and have children.
It's not even on the table.
It's not.
Yeah.
And that's not wrong for you to hold to that and want that. And it's not wrong for your daughter to have that objective that, no, I want to be with a man that will give me children.
Yes.
Now, that isn't to say that anybody who's sterile, who can't have children, or finds himself in this. We're not trying to speak to specific people. This is what happened on my post. You get some lady who has some sexual history, and now she thinks I'm calling her a clearance rack. I'm like, no, I'm not calling you that.
Well, it's a well-known fact that women struggle with generalities.
Absolutely. Just generally speaking.
That's a general statement.
Generally speaking, women struggle with generalities.
And the proof
now,
of it is...
the feedback loop, they can't even...
The proof of that is that there are women right now that have a problem with what I just said.
They're just going to feedback loop on that one all day long.
Gotcha.
Short circuit.
Anyway.
Yeah, they want to put themselves into this scenario like they're some sort of an OnlyFans porn star.
Yeah.
No, I mean you've had a couple boyfriends or whatever in your life, and you've lived a promiscuous life. I don't think I'm not talking about that. I'm not. But still, if you're talking about my virgin son versus that, I'm going to say, hey, are you aware of her sexual history, and are you okay with that? And I'm not going to ask her, but he needs to be asking those questions about, have you been on birth control? Have you had abortions? Because all those stuff, that all comes together.
Yeah.
Women that have been on birth control sometimes have real difficulty having children.
100%.
You want to know those kind of things.
And we want to be clear that because we got accused of this, I know I got accused of this a lot, of saying that someone that used to be a OnlyFans model is always going to be viewed as a whore. No, she was a former whore, and there is shame and there is consequences that come along with that. But her identity is in Christ.
Yep.
Same with the man who destroyed himself before Christ. That he's in Christ, and so he's a new creation. He's a new identity. He is in Christ, and yet to deny temporal consequences that come from sin is foolishness.
Yeah.
It just is. And so this is why, frankly, we want a Christian nation that suppresses evil so that people don't have these horrific consequences that are done to them, these horrific things that they do, these horrific things that cause consequences the rest of their life. We want the civil magistrate to suppress those things and to punish and persecute those types of behaviors, because it's non-reversible.
Yeah.
So
the subtle message in this is that if you're not willing to do X or Y, in your marriage, or if you're not willing to marry this kind of a person, then do you even understand or believe the gospel? That's really comes down to that.
That's silly.
That's why it becomes a Jesus juke. That's silliness. That's stupidity. There are things that we need to factor in, and I don't know how to catalog it any other way.
Yeah,
we get this with we've talked about weight and tattoos,
sure,
and those kind of things.
Yep.
There are things that we visibly do to ourselves that attraction actually matters.
Yep.
Yes, an overweight, tattooed young lady can find love and find a quality man, and whatever. I'm not saying that, but to put it on some young man that says, I want this, I'm attracted to this or that, somehow that's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's a repudiation of the gospel, guys.
It's foolishness.
That's foolish.
Yeah, I've talked about this before, but years ago I had a young man come to me. He worked for me at the time, and he was feeling guilty because the friends and family and whatnot were trying to get him to pursue certain young ladies in their church, but he wasn't attracted to them because they were overweight. And he literally felt guilty about that and felt like he was somehow sinning.
Denying Christ.
Yeah, he was like acting like she's a second-class citizen in the church or something. No. And so I walked him through that, and he realized that, no, his natural instincts were right and good and beneficial, because if you marry someone you're not attracted to, that's going to cause problems.
Problematic. Yeah.
So anyway, it's foolishness to say that it's somehow a denial of the gospel. And so
I even had somebody tell me that this was a 10 for 10 denial of the gospel.
Yeah.
That when I said that, I'm not denying grace to this person.
He needs to go to the gym, by the way.
The person that said that?
Yeah.
I'm not denying that this person the gospel, or what the gospel teaches, that the gospel can't save them. But here's the deal. We're talking about the category of who I should marry, who I'm attracted to, and then we're talking about the gospel. Can Christ save a porn star? I hope so. I mean, we all have we have sexual sin. We have all kinds of sin. If he can't save her, how can I say that he can save me? For my sin. Yep. So that's one issue. But now we get down to who is it that I should marry, and to suggest that you have to be willing to marry a porn star, or you don't understand the gospel is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and if you remember, Michael Foster got in trouble years ago for making the statement that single mothers were probably not the type of person you want to pursue for a wife for multiple different reasons.
I remember that.
He got ripped a new one over that. But he was right, because there are a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times, that's an indicator that something's not right.
Yeah.
And then, the difficulties of raising someone else's children and all that comes along with that. And obviously, the Lord is able to restore and make wonderful marriages out of those things. We all have friends who does. Yes.
And you're listening.
And there's
to
people
this,
in our church that he's done.
You've got
it
the exceptional marriage. Great. I praise God.
It doesn't mean that that's always necessarily wise for a young man to do that, or for a young lady to do that.
Yeah, that's not prescriptive.
So we think that because they're a Christian, we should just throw out wisdom. Yeah. No, that's not the only thing that matters. Other things matter.
So as we think about our authority, as a father, I would tell my son, don't do that.
Yeah.
And not put him in a situation where you're denying it, but like, hey, my counsel is do not do this.
Yeah.
And then to the degree that I can stop that, I'm probably going to try to stop that. But there's a lot of factors with a son. With a daughter, I think you can say, nope, that ain't happening. I am not giving my permission for that. So just you guys can end this completely. A son, maybe a little bit different. As a pastor, different role. I'm going to look at a young couple that comes to me if they're both believers, and we discover that one's OnlyFans, and and he's a virgin. I'm going to look at him and say, guys, I don't think this is wise. I don't think you should do this. Would I marry them? That's another question. I don't know. I would make sure they count that cost, and they would have to give me great assurance that yes, we understand this, and I may even give them some of the scenarios that I can think of that this would be problematic.
Yeah, I think of this mainly because I have 4 daughters. I think of this as a father. If one of my daughters was interested in a man who I knew was a repentant homosexual, I would have large reserves about that. I mean, I would have some real hesitation there, maybe beyond hesitation.
Yeah, we've got
Does he have AIDS?
Yeah,
does he have STDs?
Is he sterile? Is there
like his the mental perversion that he's engaged in for years? Like that's going to bring problems in the marriage bed. There is no way around it.
100%.
And so all of that is a factor and should be a factor when we consider like who our children or who we're encouraging young people to pursue. And this flippant, that was one of the biggest problems with this tweet. It's like flippant, well, you should marry an OnlyFans model before you marry someone that's got pride in their heart. It's like, you're just being completely flippant as if it's like, yes, we agree, pride is horrific, but to treat marrying a former whore as if there's no consequences to that is foolishness. And it's very unpastoral.
It's not like there's not other options to it. And chief amongst them is don't get married at all. Remain single before you go down that path. Wait.
Yeah. And I think you said something to this effect, but it makes a lot more sense for 2 people that both have a kind of shady sexual past to come together than it does for someone who doesn't have a shady past with someone that does. That's just going to cause problems.
100%.
So,
now I said as a father how I would do it, how as a pastor how I would do it. Now as a podcaster, I would tell you, wait, count the cost before you
count the cost.
All right. Anything more on this topic?
I don't think so.
Dead.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of people that I really respect, defending Protestia and whatever.
I like them, by the way.
Yeah, I got no problem. This is the first time I've ever counter-signaled
This was out of the blue.
Yes. No, I just think they missed it. I think it was wrong. I think they were flippant. I think that they did not think about what they were saying and doing. And they doubled down, and it is what it is. But and I still like them. I'm not saying they're the enemy, but and anyone who agrees with them, it's okay. But I disagree pretty strongly. And for people to come back and say that I'm denying the gospel is not only false, but it's divisive. I didn't say they denied the gospel. I'm just pointing out where they're wrong. Yeah. You can point out where you think I'm wrong, but to start saying that I'm denying the gospel, it shows this tweet, and this may sound offensive, but this was in some ways an IQ test of, can you actually think categorically about these things without conflating and without confusing the issue. And it did. It was a false dichotomy, and it was a collapsing of categories, and just very unhelpful.
Yep. All right, I got nothing more on this. There we go. Lord bless you.
God bless.